Welcome. Today, Makar Sankranti, the most blissful day for the sadhakas. Sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to complete their initiation of Brahm Rishi Ved Vyas Path may take 5 years self-imposed course of being along this path. 5 years duration is the accepted unit of Vedanga Jyotish. 5 years period is the period of 1830 days, 360 days per year is the computation of the Jyotish Vedanga. So the sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to complete their initiation of Brahm Rishi Ved Vyas Path have to undertake, have to remain under a discipline, have to continue the intensity of progression, of initiation, comprehension, imbibing of these path values, features and format for a full duration of 5 years, 360 days a year, 1830 days course discipline. It is in terms of it that one may have the complete bliss of this path. Today, point constituent of vertical axis is the focus point for us. The third axis, the vertical axis, being a axis, will accept an association of value 1. However, the same can have an association of value 3 if we are having a reach for the vertical axis from the surface, which is a setup of the format of pair of axes. So if we have to proceed from Earth's surface to the space, then the vertical axis will acquire value 3 being the third axis. However, this vertical axis is axis like any other axis, any other pair of axes of the surface. Therefore, starting with the vertical axis as 1, then the Earth surface axis will acquire values 2 and 3 being the second and third axis. Therefore, vertical axis is the axis which is of a dual features of values 1 and 3, and parallel to it we know it would be a setup of 1 space and 3 space. Further, we know that 1 space is playing the role of dimension of a 3 space. As such, the vertical axis, which is accepting pair of values 1 and 3, means both the values 1 and 3 are getting superimposed here, means we are having a solid axis. How the vertical axis acquires the status of format, features and values of a solid axis is the concept which deserves to be comprehended, and today our focus is going to be upon this particular feature, that the point constituent of the vertical axis is in fact going to be a point of a solid, means a point cube, a point sphere, a point 3 space content lump. Therefore, how the physical content lump as a constituent with a format of an interval, of an axis, of a dimension, the points constituents of this line are going to be the point spheres, the point cubes, point solids, point physical content lumps. As such, the point here becomes a structured point. It becomes a Bindu Srovar, and the structure embedded in this constituent of the vertical axis is nothing but a solid. Therefore, it is the set of spheres, the point spheres, point solids, point cubes, point physical content lumps, which are making the vertical axis. It is here where the Vedic mathematics, Vedic approach, Vedic organization, Vedic reach for the existence phenomenon of our solar universe is differing from the modern, because if our point constituent of vertical axis is of value 3, then this as an axis will take us to value 6, means to a Surya, means the sun. How the vertical axis as it is to give us a reach up till the sun. How to have a reach from earth to sun by having a chase along the format, features and values of a vertical axis. Vertical axis is an axis which is accepting pair of values, that is 1 and 3 both. It is just like that the dimension axis is getting superimposed upon a domain. It is this concept of superimposition of the dimension upon the domain which is a unique concept. It is this concept which deserves to be imbibed. That is the reason why here in our physical world, whatever point is picked up, whatever the lump is picked up, how small it may be, it remains a solid. Therefore, it is not possible to reach at a line, a one space setup in our this physical three space world. Every line in our physical world is a solid line. Now, if we have a revisit to a one line as an interval, as a one space body, then we know it also is an hypercube of values -1, 0, 1 and 2. This gives us a conclusion that here it is not possible to have a straight reach at the domain value. We can always have a reach at a hyper value. We can have a reach at an interval which doesn't remain only a length. It becomes a fourfold setup where the positive orientation simultaneously gives us the negative orientation. So for the domain, we simultaneously get a dimension and both get superimposed. Therefore, our interval, which is having a pair of endpoints, gives us a pair of orientations. Both orientations get superimposed. It is because of it that we always have to think of +1 as an absolute value equal to the -1 absolute value. When we work with 1, and as always, immediately, inherently, without choice, silently we take it +1, then we are in a way reaching at an absolute value, but inherently we are missing. What we are missing, that we always take it that if we have an interval, we have one space body, we have a line, we will have a unit, and we unit always take it to be +1 without caring that it is in fact is going to be the absolute value, because may it be +1 or -1, the absolute value is going to be 1. So we take 1 as a unit, as an absolute value, and we silently, without be remaining conscious, strip off its orientations. It is this stripping off of the orientations which is responsible for us that we remain getting trapped within the modern day approach which always results into mathematical knots, mathematical problems. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel to the Vedic mathematics, they shall approach the vertical axis as an axis which is having simultaneously a pair of values being 1 and 3, and otherwise as well that we know that +1 space as domain is having -1 space as a dimension, and the difference value is 2. It is this difference value of 2 which is going to be the real focus for the students who wants to be face to face with, who want to be parallel to the point constituent of a vertical axis. Before that, we may have a visit to the formulations ek, which gives us TC value 8, Traya, which also gives us TC value 8, Akash of TC value 8, Chaya of TC value 8, Shakha of TC value 8, Shikha of TC value 8. It is here where we will be appreciating as that value 8 which accepts an organization 2 raised to power 3. That means we are from 1 as 1 over 3 to 2 raised to power 3. Therefore, from the sequence 1 to 2, in fact, we are reaching at the sequence of 1 raised to power 3 and 2 raised to power 3. Therefore, the approach along the axis, vertical axis, when we want to have a missile-like projection and reach within the sky, within the space from the surface, then this reach is not going to be as a reach going from 1 to 2, but in fact it is going to be a reach from 1 raised to power 3 to 2 raised to power 3. It is this feature which is ultimately to take us to the mathematics when we'll say if we have a single cube, we say it is 1 raised to power 3. When we are at 1 raised to power 3, then we will be having how many? 27 constituents. There would be as many as 8 corner points. There would be as many as 12 edges. There will be as many as 6 surfaces, and there would be a volume unit only 1, making it a total summation value 27, which is of the organization 3 raised to power 3. It is here where we have to be careful that this cube, which is 1 raised to power 3, is taking us to 3 raised to power 3. See, from 1 raised to power 3, we are reaching at 1 plus 2 raised to power 3. Now, this value 2 is the value which is there because of the vertical axis is having superimposition of dimension and a domain. It is this concept of superimposition of dimension and domain with the difference value 2 which is to play its role, and it is in terms of the distinguishing characteristic specific role of the value 2, which in fact is nothing but the difference between the domain and dimension value. If the domain is 3 space, dimension is 1 space, the difference is value 2. But if the domain is 4, the dimension will be 2, difference will be 2. If the domain is 1, the dimension will be -1 and the difference value will be 2. It is this reach n plus 2 and n which is the feature which is playing its role. But how this role is to be worked out, how this role is to be changed, for it we have to see that if we are having 1 raised to power 3, then it is leading us to a 3 raised to power 3 value. This single cube is leading us to 27 factors. But if we are having 2 raised to power 3, which means 8, so if we have a split for a cube into 8 subcubes, now this split of a cube into 8 subcubes, or the split of a 3 space into 8 octants. Now these 8 cubes set up will be giving us to values 27 components, then 18 and 12. Then we will be having again this values 12, 18 and 12, and then it would be 12 and 8. It makes us 125, which is equal to 5 raised to power 3. So from 1 raised to power 3 we have reached at 3 raised to power 3. But from 2 raised to power 3 we are reaching at 5 raised to power 3. Step ahead, from 3 raised to power 3 we will be reaching at 7 raised to power 3. 4 raised to power 3 will take us to 9 raised to power 3. What is this relationship of 1 and 3, 2 and 5, 3 and 7, 4 and 9? This is the setup of the total versions of hypercube 1. The geometries of 1 spacer 3. The versions of hypercube 2. The geometries are 2 spacer 5. Versions of hypercube 3. The geometries of 3 spacer 7. Versions of hypercube 4. 4 space has 9 geometries, and so on. It is this feature which is inherently there within the setup of the vertical axis. So the constituent of the vertical axis is the constituent which deserves to be approached distinctively in terms of the organization of Brahmarshi Vedvyas path. It is this path which is to be followed if we have to be parallel to the Vedic mathematics, Vedic sciences and Vedic technologies. Therefore, now for it means we have to go to the Ganita Sutras. And the Ganita Sutras, as these are having 16, which is parallel to 16 is equal to 2 raised to power 4, which is parallel to the dimensional frame of a 4 space. Therefore, 4 space, real 4 space, is a space which accepts 2 space in the role of dimension, and as many as 4 dimensions constitute the dimensional frame. It is here where the Vedic mathematics distinguishes itself from the axioms, postulates and processing steps of the linear mathematics, linear progression, 3-dimensional frame setup being approached and worked out and followed by the modern mathematics. The modern mathematics is insisting upon chasing the universe in terms of a 3-dimensional frame of 3 linear axes. However, the Vedic mathematics has a break, has a breakthrough, has a transition, has a transformation, has a transcendence from this linear organization approach of the modern mathematics. The Vedic mathematics transits from the linear sequential organization of a space framed within a 3 linear axis setup to the space framed within a quadruple spatial dimensions. Means the Vedic mathematics is reaching up till the 4 space as a starting point, and we know the 4 space as dimension will take us to 6 space as a domain. Further, we have seen here that how the vertical axis with its superimposition as 1 value as an axis and 3 value as a domain will help us see that this 3 takes us to 4, 5 and 6, means 6 space as a origin. As such, the Vedic mathematics, which begins with its first letter as A of value 6, as such we shall have a pause. Let us take a glimpse of the approach and reach of the Vedic mathematics. Vedic mathematics is a mathematics which transcends from the linear progression setup of a 3 linear dimensions frame of 3 space. The approach is that vertical axis is being viewed, being worked out, being chased be ways followed as a setup where the domain 3 space and 1 space as an axis gets superimposed. It is this superimposed body of 3 space which as a dimension will be taking us to 6 space, and it is this reach, it is this attainment which is being followed, worked out, chased, enjoyed and blissfully followed for the blissful existence within our solar universe. Now it is this setup which deserves to be seen, which is to be worked, which is to be faced. For it, we have to again have an attention, a focus upon the point constituent of the vertical axis. This, when we will be following, then the situation will reach at that when we will be confronted with the Gita Parinam Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Means Gita Parinam Shloka with respect to the organization format of the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as is given, preserved in Urma Bhartam. Urma Bhartam is the basic scripture. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a part of this scripture. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a part of Urma Bhartam. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a complete scripture, and Urma Bhartam is also a complete scripture. How Srimad Bhagavad Gita as a scripture is a part of a bigger scripture, Urma Bhartam. Urma Bhartam has a shloka. It is in the Bhishma Parva in chapter 43 as shlokas 2 to 5, 4 and 5. So this pair of shlokas, the pair of shlokas of Bhishma Parva of chapter 43 as shlokas 4 and 5, there is preserved an enlightenment that Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a text of 745 shlokas. However, our text, popular text, a text which is taken as a complete scripture in itself, though it is part of a bigger scripture. This text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is a text of 18 adhyayas, 18 chapters, is of 700 shlokas range. However, the Gita Parinam Shloka enlightens us that it is a scripture of 745 shlokas. One question naturally would be that where are those 45 shlokas, and how those 45 shlokas are to be interpreted, how that text is to be accepted in continuation of the text of these 18 chapters. My submission is that let us take that the Ganita Sutra 1 enlightens us that Eka Adhikain Purven, one more than the previous one. So if the previous state is of value 18, then one more than it will take us to value 19. Therefore, this unmanifest, this unwritten chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is the 19th chapter. Before we proceed further, we can see that value 19 is the TCV value of formulation Krish. We know Shri Bhagavan, Krish, incarnation of Lord Vishnu, is the source of the divine song. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is the divine song of Lord Krishna, the enlightened incarnation of Lord Vishnu. The formulation Krishna is of TC value 19. One more than the previous one will take us to value 19. Therefore, we have to take it that this 19th shloka is a shloka of 45 shlokas range. So 19th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is of 45 shlokas range. Then the question would be that where is that text of these 45 shlokas? This text is there here in the organization of the text of 18 chapters itself. This is in the form of uvachas. How many are the uvachas of these 18 chapters? If we will have an attention to these uvachas of these 18 chapters divine song of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we will have these 45 shlokas. In fact, these uvachas of Dhritarashtra, Sanjay and Arjuna are the uvachas which are the inspired states of these three participants of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are at present to concentrate only that the Gita Parinam Shloka is there in the Urma Bharatam, which is preserving as that the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is of 745 shlokas, and here it also is given how that as per the Gita Parinam Shloka, means these 18 chapters which initially say are of shlokas 47, 72, last as 78, under this organization these will become again the shlokas of a different range. Now this range of Gita Parinam Shloka is tabulated here in this particular sheet. Chapter 1 as per the popular text and as per the Gita Parinam Shloka, in both cases there is a reach of 47 shlokas. Chapter 2 is having 72 shlokas as a Sankhya Yoga. However, in Gita Parinam Shloka, these become 76 shlokas. Like that, from chapter 1 to chapter 18, we will be reaching at the values. And these values are to be visualized, comprehended, imbibed, and one is to initiate oneself, one is to have an enlightenment of the organization format of Brahmrishi Vedvyas Path. Then and only then we will be in a position to have a complete appreciation and complete imbibing of this distinguishing feature of the organization of the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in terms of Gita Parinam Shloka. And these 45 shlokas will take us to the 19th chapter. And value 19 is one more than the previous one. And this value 19 is also the value of the TC value of the formulation creation. Now, in this background, now let us see that Lord Brahma, the Creator, the Supreme, when meditates within cavity of one's own heart, multiplies tenfold and becomes the 10 Brahmas. And this means the hypercube 4. Here, during this transcendental transformation, transits and transforms into the role of 4 space as a boundary of a 5 space. Sadhakas, fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to the Brahmrishi Ved Path, have to follow this enlightenment path the way Lord Brahma is bestowed transcendental grace and Lord Brahma multiplies tenfold, and thereby there happens to be a transition and transformation from 4 space to a 5 space. Now this transition and transformation, how it is reflected, how it is being available in the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 15 is the chapter which takes us to Udharva Moolam. It is here that we have to go upward, downward. We have to have a see that if we are having the roots below, or if we are having the roots above. How this happens? Now, if we are in our earth, now this earth of ours is a synthetic setup of a pair of hemispheres. These pair of hemispheres, say southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere. So the tree here will be having its roots and it would be progressing upward. But in the southern hemisphere simultaneously, if it is being viewed from the northern hemisphere, it will be giving us this opposite orientation. Now it is this reach of the opposite orientation for a vertical line. If vertical axis is having a split at a middle, if it is a core of the earth. Here we are at core of the earth. So vertical axis upward and vertical axis downward. It is having value 1 and value 3. Value 1 and value 3. It is going to be a solid axis. So solid axis upward and solid axis downward. Now see, a three-dimensional frame, when is given a split, it gives a split of a pair of three-dimensional frames of half dimensions but of opposite orientations. See how these are actually available, and these are available in the form of the triple eyes in each of the 5 heads of a Lord Shiva. Now see how it happens. We are having a three-dimensional frame which accepts a split into a pair of a three-dimensional frames, and it is going to be of opposite orientation. If we have a face-to-face with, if we have a close look at the script forms of letter 3 and letter 6, then we'll see that this result, this value, this format is well preserved here. And it is in this context we will be in a position to appreciate the letter Ra and letter Sa. Both are having equal TCV value. These are the absolute values. Now here are 3 triple dimensions. Here as well as are triple dimensions. Here are triple linear dimensions. Here are also triple linear dimension. The difference is that here we are in the opposite orientations. It is this opposite orientations feature which is at work here. Now it is this opposite orientation features, when there is a split we know, then we will be having at the center a 4 space. It is this comprehension which is being not absorbed in the axioms of a modern mathematics. So let us have a visit to a cube, a 3-space body. See, here in this 3-space body, there in each corner point is embedded a 3-dimensional frame but of half dimensions. How in the organizational setup this cube is having a split for a 3-dimensional frame. So here in the opposite corner, again there is a 3-dimensional frame of half dimension but of opposite orientation. Now it is this split of a 3-dimensional frame into a pair of 3-dimensional frames of half but opposite orientation dimensions. Now these 8 corner points as such will have 4 internal diagonals. These 4 internal diagonals are the translation paths of these dimensional frames of half dimensions. However, when they reach at the center, what happens at the center? It is this which is being absolutely becoming incomprehensible by the axioms of the modern mathematics. It is because of it that in terms of the axioms of the modern mathematics, it is not becoming possible for the modern mind to be parallel to the axioms of the Vedic mathematics. Now it is here at the center of the cube. There is going to, when this reaches here, see the orientation will reach towards this corner, and simultaneously this three-dimensional frame will give an orientation towards the other corner. It is this shift, it is this chase, it is this transition, it is this interlocking at the center of the cube of the synthetic setup for a three-dimensional frame as of a pair of three-dimensional frames of half dimensions being in opposite orientation, again getting interlocked in a repeated reversion of the orientations. And it is happening not only with respect to the one pair of the three-dimensional frames, a pair of X corner points, but along all the 8 corner points, for there are as many as 4 quadruple locks for the three-dimensional frames as synthetic setups of a pair of half three-dimensional frames. And the 5th is already available in the setup of this very cube, the main cube itself. So at the center there are locked as many as penta 5 three-dimensional frames, and it is this lock at the center which is a seat of a 4 space having inner lock at the center of the 4 space, means at the seat of a 5 space. So it is this interlocking of the transcendental domain of a transcendental origin. So Lord Brahma meditates within cavity of his heart at the seat of a transcendental Lord, and with the grace of the transcendental Lord, Lord Brahma multiplies tenfold, and there happens to be a transformation of the nature, features, format of a transcendental transformation, and the Lord Brahma as 10 Brahmas goes in the Shivlok in the 5 space and creates a creative boundary. This creative boundary of the transcendental domain is to be worked out and is in fact being worked out by the Vedic mathematics by taking it to be that when Akash is of value 8 like 1 and 3, then we know 8 means Asht, and this formulation takes us to 11, which is parallel to the 11 geometries of a 5 space. Now see, the 11, these are the 11 geometries, means the 11 versions, means 11 carnations of Lord Shiva, and these incarnations are Rudras. There are as many as 11 Rudras. The formulation Rudra is taking us to value 17. See here. Now, this value 17 is the Atma, it is the being. And 17 means Saptadas takes us to 24, which is the value of the Purusha. And we know Chaturvinshi takes us to Maheshwara, which is the value 39. And it amounts to, again, Lord Shiva manifesting within 4 space as hypercube 5. So it is this manifestation of hypercube of 5 as representative regular body of a 5 space within 4 space, and Lord Brahma, the overlord of 4 space, meditating within cavity of his own heart and acquiring a transcendental grace. It is this phenomenon which deserves to be comprehended well. Once we are face to face with these transcendental features, then the beautiful situation emerges that when this Srimad Bhagavad Gita text becomes a text of 19 chapters, then this chapter 18 will again, starting with the 1 and reaching 18, and 18 will reach at the 1. That means here there will be a joint. So linear transition, progression will be transiting and transforming into a spatial transition. Now for it, let us see what are the gaps. So this 78 value here will give us the gap between this is value 31. Gap between first and second shlokas is 25. Here gap is 29, 1, 13, so on. See how much is the gap. The gap is 284. Wonderful, excellent, marvelous, achievable, blissable, and one is to be face to face with it. Sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to have a location of the Ganita Sutras. Where are the Ganita Sutras? Where are located these Ganita Sutras in the Vedic literature? These are located in the gaps of the sequential organization of the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the gaps in between. So these gaps are of value 284. And what is the importance of this value? What is the real magnificence attached with this value? It is that these 16 Ganita Sutras we know are availing in all 283 letters. These 283 letters, when will go in the cyclic, then it will give one more than before, it will become 284. And it is here again a very beautiful, very excellent, very imbibing, very charming value available, that these Ganita Sutras are not only leading us in the one way of approach, reaching from Shloka 1 to Sutra 1 to Sutra 16, but then again it is to go in a cyclic order. Therefore, the first sutra is to be taken ekadikain and we have to reach at 16th sutra, but for the second unfolding, we have to start with Gunak Samuchya and go in the reverse order. And this we can go 5 times. It is called a Panchamvriti. From here, we can see how big is the range of the values, features of the format of the mathematics of the Ganita Sutras. These values, features, formats of the text of Ganita Sutras are leading us to very rich, very powerful and very wonderful approach to our universe. And this universe, this is going to be that the first formulation, ekadikain itself, is giving us the transcendental values 6, 4, 2, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 1. See the beauty. These 3 values together give us the value of the Rishi. See, Sapt is 14 because it is this parabolic, and Sapt we know is having TC value 14. So it gives us 26, which is the value of a Devta. Then further it gives us a value 19, which is the value of a Chand. And it gives us the value 15 of a Swara. We know that each mantra, each richa of Vedic Samhita is having a Rishi, is having a Devta, is having a Chand, is having a Swara. This reach is the reach in terms of the Ganita Sutras. So Ganita Sutras are the powerful sutras, as we have seen earlier that the text of Ganita Sutras letters value cardinality is equal to the value cardinality of the Maheshwara Sutras as well as of the Devanagari Varnamala. Therefore, sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to Brahmrishi Ved Vyas shall have intensified pursuit which is to remain for 5 years, and this 5 years pursuit of Brahmrishi Ved Vyas Path will fulfill them with the transcendental values in terms of which they can have the full satisfaction of being parallel to the Vedic knowledge, Vedic values, Vedic mathematics, Vedic sciences, Vedic technologies, and also they will fulfill their urge to reach at the full range of the Vedic knowledge. All those Samhitas and Vedic scriptures which have not reached us can be reconstructed, can be revived, can be brought into a manifest form of a written texts. It is this way that we will be fulfilling our urge, we will be fulfilling the value of our existence and the purpose of our life to be on the Vedic path. Thank you very much.